Namaskar, Jai Hind, Vande Mataram. Welcome or welcome back to Neeti by Professor B.C. Anant. If you're new to the channel, do not forget to subscribe to us. If you want to get connected, you can follow me on LinkedIn by my name, that is BC Anant. You can reach out to me and my office on Instagram by the username BC Anant BCA or Office of BC Anant. And you can reach out to me on Facebook by the same name, that is BC Anant. आज 1 फरवरी है and there's something interesting that I always cover every 1st February for the last 4-5 years. भारत का बही खाता और India's very own budget, Indianized budget. Now, today the Prime Minister has called it the futuristic budget. Why did he call it a futuristic budget? Let's discuss that. And more importantly, this was the first time in 5 or 6 years that I personally did not watch the entire budget session live. Yes, I used to watch the entire budget session live for the last 4 or 5 years. But yeah, I eventually decided to go on to decode the entire budget for the audience and those who really want to understand what has this budget to offer for the rest of the country for this coming union financial year. So, if you thought that the budgets were just about taxes or accountancy policies, it's beyond that. Think again. And, the union budget of 26 is more about a balance sheet for the future of India, keeping in mind the present generation's goal. It is, I would say, it's like a science fiction roadmap. And here we are trying to give a platform to the creators, create a creators economy. We are focusing more on orange economy. We want the farmers, small farmers, not the the big farmers that we often hear about. बड़े किसानों की बात पहले काफी ज्यादा होती थी बजट में. We want AI for farmers, quantum leaps in technology, and a massive pivot, as I said, for the orange economy for the creators. So let's understand what Nirmala Sitharaman ji has actually unpacked for India and the entire uh, country's budget. I will today talk about a couple of very important points which has resulted, in calling this budget a futuristic budget. Now, mind my words before I say this. India's markets were open today, but, even though it is a Sunday today. But the most important fact is that there was no it was not a magic wand. It was a very simple strategic budget. So the markets eventually fell down by close to 2300 points, if I'm not wrong. But the markets decided to recover, and that was the best part about it. So I'll discuss this with technology, followed by youth and jobs. So let's have a look up at the tech stack. This is not just about building roadmaps, it's about building the intelligence. First scheme that the finance minister talked about, and I'm going to talk of, is AI for agriculture. India has just announced Bharat Vistar. This is a multilingual AI tool announced today. It integrates digital agricultural stacks to give farmers a real-time customized advice. Whatever you want will be offered to you in the form of a guidance in your own language. आपकी अपनी भाषा में आपको समझाया जाएगा. So think about a personal assistant like ChatGPT, Gemini, or Perplexity, or Grok, giving you answers and output in your own form or the language you understand. So it is going to be an AI consultant for Indian farmers. Now, the next is the Semiconductor Project 2.0. Now, we all know that the government launched Semiconductor Project a couple of years ago, and this is an ambitious program that has not only resulted in India starting to create its own semiconductor chips, but also the most important fact is that semiconductors in India have actually started to work. I wrote a post on LinkedIn yesterday where I had discussed about India's indigenously developed gallium nitride chip, that is GaN chip, which is generally found in defense products and automobile industry. So we are with Semiconductor 2.0 mission moving to a next level, and the India Semiconductor Mission or ISM 2.0 is about focusing on the shifts from assembly to creating a full stack Indian IP, meaning we have our own design, the technology is our own, and the manufacturing eventually is our own, and the companies will be our own. Now, biomanufacturing is third, which is technically the current trend in uh, currently in trend. So, biomanufacturing is a new scheme called Biopharma Shakti. It got 10,000 crores outlay, and the goal is to make India a global hub for biologics and complex medicines. Now, the world is aware that we are technically the largest providers, exporters of vaccines and medicines to the rest of the world. But Biopharma Shakti is ambitious. We are not just anymore focusing on generic medicines. Now we want to focus on creating highly advanced medicines, such medicines which we have been largely dependent on foreign players like the US and the European Union. Now, what will this do is it will create a platform for Indian companies to invest into R&D, and not only that, for the talent that is technically moving out of India and going to US or other continents to explore this particular field. So if I have to read about what is Biopharma Shakti 2.0, it is a new scheme, as I said, called Biopharma Shakti, which has an allocated budget of 10,000 crores. And the goal, as I said, is to make India a global hub for biologics and complex medicine. And if the last decade was about generic drugs, as I said, we are one of the largest exporters, technically the largest. This is about bio innovation. So the government now plans to stop a humongous amount of talent to move out of the continent. Now, data and space. See, the problem with India has been we have had been using a lot of data. We are technically the largest uh, wealth creators for marketplaces like Google, Facebook, as we are huge in number in terms of population and also in terms of consumption. Now, to position India as a cloud capital, the Honorable Finance Minister called it a tax holiday for data centers, serving foreign clients until 2047. So the idea is to bring the attention of companies which are providing services in the cloud space, data cloud space, to stay in India, to create data centers in India and make India a digital data hub. And the government will provide them tax uh, subsidiaries, tax holiday as they call it, plus huge upgrades for the National Large Solar Telescope and the new Cosmos 2 planetarium is proposed in this budget. What will this do? This will not only strengthen India's overall plan of leaping ahead in and soaring ahead in space science, but also strengthen our defense and reduce our defense dependency, increase our uh, monitoring capability in terms of agriculture, in terms of the cosmological events that happen on and on. The best of all could be related to Three Eye Atlas. Just stating a simple example that the entire world was dependent on NASA and ESE, that is the European Agency for Space, for the tracking of Three Eye Atlas. Not that ISRO did not, but the shutdown resulted in huge chunk of data getting lost, and we technically lost one of the greatest opportunities to uh, track down a very interesting interstellar friend who visited us once, just once in eternity. Now, the segment two of my discussion on budget is about jobs and creators. Technically, what's in it? What is in this budget for the youth? If you're a Gen Z, and I am a faculty for the Gen Z, I'm a professor for the Gen Z, uh, a job seeker or a creator, you have to listen closely to this section. I talked about the orange economy as the government today proposed. It has officially recognized the power of AVCG sector, that is animation, visual effect, gaming, and comics. So they're now setting up AVGCs, content creator labs, in 15,000 secondary schools and over 500 colleges. Because now the government plans to and wants to build the next level global gaming hit through Indian creators. That's what they call it. We call it the orange economy boom. E to E, that is education to employability or employment. It is a new high-powered standing committee. The government is going to propose one called E to E, that or the education to employment has been formed to bridge the gap between your degree and your actual job skills, specifically in the terms of service sector, because service sector today is getting overburdened due to lack of technologically advanced workforce. Now, the third is the STEM or STEM for girls. To close the gender gap in science and technology, the government is funding girls' hostel in every district specifically to help women access STEM funding. Girls' hostel you know, in, in cities without worrying about accommodation. So the government will build some hostels in every city that would be in thousands in numbers for the girls and will provide them specific support to study science and technology. Now, study abroad here gets cheaper. Planning to study overseas, if you have a good news. The TCS, that is tax collected at source on remittance for education, has been sliced from 5% down to just 2%. Now, this is interesting because there are people from the middle class wanting to go out and explore new uh, education systems, and this particular concession will help us all. Now, the third sector is about wallet watch, that is what went cheap, what is going to get expensive. Smartphones. We all have those beautiful chunky smartphones, right? One of which is lying next to me. Smartphones, duties on the components like connectors, battery, covers are slashed. So uh, our next phone technically could cost us cheaper. Cancer drug, full duty exemption on 17 life-saving cancer drugs, and a massive relief for the patients who are actually fighting cancer. Now, microwaves. Manufacturing parts for microwave ovens are completely duty free now. Interesting, right? So, the next time I come to your house and you serve me a wonderful toast uh, or something that can be made on in a microwave, I think it will be cheaper because you will get a new microwave, isn't it? Okay, leather goods. Now, when I talk about leather goods, this also has to do with the new FTA with EU, India EU trade agreement, because this is going to create a market of 2 billion people and over a couple of billion, $100 billion, uh, which is huge. So leather goods, inputs for leather goods, leather goods like footwear are cheaper, likely lowering the shoe prices, which are genuine or authentic leather. Solar and EV tech, duties cut on materials for solar glass and lithium ion cells will push for green energy. And as I have been reading it for the last 3 or 4 days, India is doing humongous in green energy. We have been reaching targets, we have been breaking our own benchmarks and creating new inspiration for the rest of the world. Now, what goes expensive? As the market had crashed earlier today, there was a reason. Trading FNO, that is futures and offerings. Bad news for the day traders, the STT, that is securities transaction tax on the futures, has hiked from 0.05% and options to 0.15%. Now, luxury import. So the government keeps doing something or the other with luxury imports. High-end imported watches and premium alcohol will cost more to encourage the domestic alternatives. And this is the time for Indian brands to explore new heights and newer markets in tier 1 and tier 2 cities but with their product offerings that is luxury in nature. Now, sin goods like cigarettes, tobacco products are reaching a record high. This budget, which has announced it in the national calamity contingent duty. So, if you have any addiction, I think it's better you leave it because it's always going to be injurious to your health and now even more injurious to your pocket. High-end cameras, well, imported professional camera gears will now see a price bump. The prices will soar. So, planning to buy a new camera, buy it right away. Right away, if I can suggest you something. Now, the fourth segment is about why does this all matter? Now, understand this budget is important because it targets the fiscal deficit to 4.3. It is important for India to control its fiscal deficit because the world is on the verge of a collapse of the markets and a global inflation has already started showing its uh, signs and effects on every other market. So, signaling the fact that India wants to keep its fiscal deficit of 4.3%, the world should know that India's economy is stable and disciplined. And India is continuously signing trade deals with more and more players. You must also have read or heard that India is eventually decided to move out of petrodollar monopoly, and now BRICS nation are going to deal in BRICS economy or currency for that matter for petroleum products. And that is why it is important for the world to understand that US dollars and the West run monopoly can never run the world. It never did. It's just a couple of 100 years that the West has been dominating. Before that and before invasion, India was a 21 or 22 trillion dollars economy, close to 22% of the entire world's GDP. It's just a matter of 100 years after 1700s or 1800s, the beginning of 1800s, we lost all the charm. But now we are coming back. So, as I said, why is this important? Because it is targeting the fiscal deficit of 4.3%, signaling the world that India's economy is stable and disciplined. With a massive capex target of rupees 12.2 lakh crores, the government is spending big on infrastructure to fuel jobs. And the verdict, what I would want to give is this budget wants to move India from assembly to innovation. We just cannot be assembling goods by exporting parts and calling it made in India. But now is the time to innovate. And not that we have not been innovating, but it is a plethora, there are a plethora of opportunities now for the world to see that how does India operate. It banks heavily on the youth becoming creators and scientists, and not just employees of the MNCs. The total, the tools are there. So now it's up to us to build. For all of us to understand that India is now proceeding further with the fact that India is now becoming a country of self dependency. The world must understand and the world must see that we are not completely dependent on the US, the UK, or such markets for everything. We are more than that. It is for us to break our shackles, break our stereotypes, and contribute toward making a civic society that is honest and that is integrated with the alignment of Viksit Bharat 2047 or Viksit Bharat 2047. It is also up to us to decide whether we are ready for a next level of challenge to make India a superpower. When I say this, I also always say this in my classes that $5 trillion dollar economy is not just going to help us. We are going to need additional 15 to 20 trillion dollars of economy, of worth of money in our economy, and the size of the economy has to grow to an extent that our per capita income also increases. Also, this budget has a lot to decode on defense, on education, on women healthcare, on education, and a lot of other aspects that the spectators and the experts will decode. Well, I'm not the expert in economy, but I tried creating an entire bunch of script for all of you to understand our budget. Now, it's up to us to decide whether we are ready for this budget or not. It may not have offered everything, but it has offered us uh, freight corridors, seven new economic corridors, an entire plethora of thought for handlooms as well as for technical textiles. It has offered us biopharma shakti. It has offered us AI data centers. It has offered us STEM for girls and for their learning. It has tried investing in teaching the youth the power of science and mathematics. It has also focused on making sure that India now innovates and not just keeps assembling. More or less, this budget is a roadmap that the state governments and the uni- union government has to follow along with us, because the government may make policies, but it is for us to make sure that we implement those policies with our willpower. So that was it for the day. I hope you liked the video. If you did, do share it with your accomplice, and make sure you get back to this channel by subscribing to the channel and turning on the bell icon so that every time my team posts something, you get a notification. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Jai Hind. Signing out.